Let's bring in our second guest for the day. We've got political scientist and UP Los Baños professor Antonio Contreras. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
Thanks for joining
sir.
us.
Good
Hi,
afternoon. Before anything else, I'd like to make a public disclosure. I'm also the vice chairperson of the board of PTB4. I was advised to always say that every time I start an interview.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
thank you for that disclosure. That always helps put things into context, diba? But we invited you today on the basis of your op-ed, the op-ed that you wrote, arguing that the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas team squandered the impeachment narrative because of their silence. Please talk us through it.
Well, actually, just providing a different angle, a different perspective on this narrative, because it is very easy and convenient to blame the impeachment of Sara Duterte as the reason why the Alyansa did not fare well in the last elections. But if you look at the numbers, we are divided. There are a lot of undecideds. In fact, if you look at the finer details of the surveys, while the survey for Pulse said there are more people who disagree with the impeachment, there is another survey that were conducted predominantly on Gen Z voters, the youth, where there's an overwhelming 80% of the people, of the young ones, would like Sara Duterte convicted in the impeachment court. And with the data coming in right now, that there is a huge number of young voters, new voters, that might not have been part of the sample of the surveys because they are not counted in the panel. This could have made a difference. But the problem is, the Alyansa did not campaign on the issue because they were kind of afraid. Maybe they were very careful that Mindanao will not vote for them. And now that they're silent, they did not vote for them anyway. So taking that risk would probably have made a difference.
But sir, maybe they were also looking at the previous surveys. It appeared to show that there was some sort of a resurgence by the Duterte camp after the arrest. So baka they thought na parang, yes, sir.
Pero Ed, kasi yung surveys ng Pulse Asia at saka SWS, saka ng Octa, lahat yan nakabase sa dating panel na hindi pa nasasample itong mga bagong voters na ito.
Okay.
So, di ba yun ang conclusion ngayon, kaya naging very, yung hindi natin na-anticipate na papasok si Bam at saka si Kiko at maraming mga upset sa local elections. Kasi nga, yung dating kasi yung surveys na yan, hindi naman na nagpupunta sa field yung mga yan to randomize. They go to a panel. And this panel don't have this new generation of voters.
That's what we were saying then, Prof, na parang they weren't able to capture the sentiment of the younger voters. Pero what would you have them do? I mean, because when we were talking to campaign manager Congressman Toby Tiangco, sabi niya, nakita nga nila that after the impeachment, their support in Mindanao really declined by a large margin. So,
but that is again based on surveys that did not interview younger generation voters. It's still using that argument means that the basis of the decision was based on something that may not necessary. And on hindsight, ako naman, ganun din naman, di ko naman sila masisisi, dahil yun ang available. Pero sinasabi ko that you have taken the risk. Because in the first place, even the surveys of Pulse and even the surveys of Octa and all the others, divided, maraming undecided, hindi ng overwhelming majority, it's more of a plurality. And then if you look at it, also in terms, it's not just the impeachment thing, it's also the pro-China thing. You have to understand that based on their own survey, 70% of the electorate would not vote for pro-China candidates. And yet again, the Alyansa did not use that. So the Alyansa talked about governance, talked about projects, but these are the things that are very emotional among people, and they could have just it's more of a contrapuntal to the campaign of the pro-Duterte camp about the fact that Sara Duterte was impeached and Rodrigo Duterte is in the Netherlands. So these three issues, the impeachment, this drug war, and the China issue, which are very important issues based on surveys, were not touched. And therefore the Alyansa ceded a lot of ground to the opposition.
Pumalpak nga yung mga survey, Professor Pero anong tingin nyo, anong dapat na direksyon ngayon? Kasi parang ang lumalabas ngayon nagbabackpedal yung administration, although officially ang sabi ng Malacañang President Marcos, of course it's out of his hands yung impeachment, sasabihin nila, pero sa tingin mo parang nagsosoften. Of course it's still a political, even if it's a trial, it's still a political process, no, even at the Senate. Sa tingin mo kailangan mag-soften nga yung posisyon ng Marcos administration? It's distancing itself, of course, from the Senate. Pero yung naririnig natin ngayon, parang ganon, di ba?
Hindi na nagbago ang stand ni President Marcos, hindi ba? Even before the elections, ganyan ang stand niya.
Yeah.
Wala siya. He is not going to touch the impeachment process. So ano nagbago? Wala
No, actually, ang sabi niya, he is not in favor. Yan ang sabi niya, he is not in favor.
He's not in favor and he's still not in favor now. So he's saying that let's move on to governance issues. But what is missed in the discussion is yung sinabi pa niyang wala na sa kamay niya yan. Ang proseso yan. Merong proseso yung impeachment. So it's as if also saying, pabayaan natin yan, wag lang nating politikahin.
Yes.
And speaking on the issue of impeachment, alam mo, it's again very easy to count heads depending on the results of the elections. But you have to also look at the different ways that things could change. Like I'm writing a column on this in the future, but I want to say it now. Hindi naman pwede, huwag kakasiguro ang mga pro-Duterte na maaring ang boto ng mga senador ay predicted na. Unang-una, they have to understand that this is a very divisive issue. They have to understand na kapag blatantly, very crucial yung pagdadala ng prosecution team Paano nila ihahayag ang ebidensya? Kasi kung ngumpel ang ebidensya, baka matulad na naman tayo doon sa panahon ni Erap. Di ba, tandaan ninyo nung kay Erap yung pagbukas ng envelope na nagpasayaw-sayaw pa si Teresa Aquino Ureta. Ano nangyari sa kanya? Di ba, she was pilloried and she even lost her election. We don't want that to happen. Of course, the electorate, lalo na ngayon na may bagong generation ng voters, hindi natin mapipredict how these people will operate. And even the very sure people, like for example, Bato de la Rosa, many people are saying, oh, he's going to vote now for for acquittal. But you have to understand, I'm not saying that the administration will arm twist him. But what I'm saying is that there is one thing that could pressure him, which is the certainty or the non-certainty of going to The Hague and be arrested. Isa yan sa pwedeng gamiting leverage sa kanya. I'm not saying that the Marcos will do that, but someone can do it on behalf of the pro-impeachment group. Na kung ikaw ba, anong pipiliin mo kung ikaw ay si Bato de la Rosa, makulong ka sa The Hague or bumoto ka na lang to acquit at to impeach? That's one thing. The other thing is, you have also the Villars. The Villars will always go where the business is greener, the business interest. And right now, medyo ang pwedeng gamitin sa kanilang leverage, yung prime water, right? The Cayetanos will always vote wherever their ambitions will be. So, hindi mo pwedeng basta-basta mag-predict yung mga yan. Kasi it's a political process, and these people will talk about their political futures as well. And the electorate will also play an important role, lalo na kapag maganda ang pagkahayag ng ebidensya, malinaw na malinaw. Isa lang doon sa 7 counts ang makonvict si Sara Duterte, tapos na ang boxing.
But sir,
Isa lang doon sa 7.
Yes, sir. But sir, there still seems to be a startling shift in the tone of Malacañang. I mean, when they kicked off the campaign, the president was issuing fighting words. Yesterday, the president was not just offering an olive branch; he was offering a tree.
Oh.
Well, the fact that instead of 8 or 9 candidates, only 6, that is if you count Villar, and only 5 you don't count her, won, then the president is actually recognizing the fact that the team did not perform well and they have to do more. But to extend that towards the impeachment issue, I think extending too much. Because from the very start, he was hands off sa impeachment. So yun ang basa ko sa kanya, hindi yung sinasabing, wag na tayo magpa-impeach. Hindi, ang sinasabi niya, kailangan silbihan natin ang bayan, wag nating hayaan na itong impeachment na ito ay maka-influence ng ating gagawin, o tayo maka-influence sa impeachment sabagat yung prosesong yan ay gumulong na. I think that's what the president is saying.
Pero how can he distance himself kung yung pinsan niya, yung nangunguna ron Di ba? Sa chamber, which will be prosecuting
Well, you have to understand that his sister is also the one opposing it. So it's pinsan and sister. It's
Pero
bla-
yung
apparently
kaaway na niya eh. Yung
apparently
pinsan, hindi. Close na close sa kanya eh.
apparently bloodlines are not usually in this country. Even have local officials where families are fighting each other. So I don't see that as a factor here. Of course, there is always a possibility that other people are doing it on his behalf. It is also a possibility that the what we call the visible narrative would be different from what is going on behind. We can always surmise na baka ano lang ito, act, or it could be a strategy to say I'm softening but others are not, are doing it the other way. This is practically a game of thrones. It's basically a political war where we are all spectators. We are all spectators.
Does the administration really have that much leverage when it comes to, say, a Bato de la Rosa? Because, okay, if as everyone expects, the ICC arrest warrant comes out, tapos they request the Interpol for help, it's not like the government can say, oh, we're not going to help you, right? Because we're part of the Interpol, and ngayon nga, before this interview with you, we were just talking to DOJ USEC T, who told us that they're asking Interpol for help to bring back Harry Roque and some of the others that were charged in the human trafficking case. So merong ganong relationship din, merong ganong a reliance on Interpol. So it's not like the government can say, okay, we are not going to give up Harry Roque. Bato de la Rosa, right?
Well, you have to understand that, the thing that was not present during the time of Rodrigo Duterte was the time. The warrant was served in the morning, and then the afternoon he was flown away. There was no time to go to the courts, but the court can intervene this time, right? The court can intervene. They can have a TRO of some sort, which did not happen during the time of Rodrigo Duterte. And as regarding the leverage, you have to understand. Well, I'm not suggesting that the court will be mobilized, but that's always a remedy. But also the leverage, you have to understand that the president is still president for 3 years. Many people are saying he's already lame duck. Of course, it's going to that direction sooner when the 2028, as we go near to 2028. But, even if Alyansa did not win the majority, only 6, even, but you have to, they still control the House. And at the same time, the president is still the president. He still has control of the levers of government. So he can still dispense favors. He can still withhold benefits and privileges. It's something that we should not discount.
Sir, may feedback from
Paalala ko lang yung public stand ni Bato de la Rosa sa impeachment is he will vote based on evidence. Yan ang madalas niyang sabihin. He has not said na he will vote na talagang pro Duterte siya, that he will vote for Sara. Ang lagi niyang sinasabi, I will vote based on the evidence.
Yes, and Bongo is all quiet about it,
Si Bongo sigurado na yun na
Well, hindi natin alam yon. Depende rin sa ambisyon niya sa 2028.
Oo.
Diba? Depende rin sa ambisyon sa 2028 kasi alam naman natin, di ba, na, based sa chismis, sa mga marites, Bongo and Sara are not in good terms din naman.
Are not in good, have never been in good terms.
So you have to understand that Bongo is the thing that might be an unknown here. We always assume, but that could be different. Ang medyo ako nga talaga na para sa tingin ko, certain lang nabuboto dito na for now, I'm sure is Robin Padilla.
Si Robin Padilla.
Jaime Marcos and Rolante Marcoleta. Yun lang pwede kong, I could be wrong on the two, but yun pa lang ang certain sa ngayon sa mga nilalabas nila. Pero yung iba, hindi natin mapipredict yan. It depends on the evidence. And someone even asked me, paano lulusot si Bato, kunyari, o mga yan? Madali naman sasabihin, magiging dramatic flair pa na sabihin nila na although they are friends with the Dutertes, they're loyal, but this is about evidence. This is about accountability. This is about a higher order thing of being a statesman. O hindi, imagine, pogi points pa yun sa electorate.
Oh,
Diba?
but
Prof, quick feedback from Ronnie Holmes.
wait lang. Follow up a little this comment ni Ami very quickly. Ami, you're correct. He has never publicly said that he will vote for Sara during the impeachment trial. But on election day, tinanong ni Ed, what the numbers were looking like to him. Nakausap namin si Senator Bato de la Rosa on that day mismo when it was clear he was gonna win, and he said feeling niya 5 or 6 na sila and they can easily get another 3, right? So and Ed was trying to get the names out of him, but ayaw niya sabihin, and we were trying to find out, okay, who are you talking to? But he also wouldn't say. But at that point in time, at least, it felt like, for sure, certainly he would vote against the conviction of Sara Duterte.
Tsaka hindi pa nga napipresent ng evidence di ba? Hindi natin doon ang magiging
I
ang
think
magiging play.
the prudent thing for all of them to do is to say, I cannot comment at this point.
Yeah.
But that's the prudent thing to do.
Oo. Yan ang utos ni Cheese, di ba?
That is
Yan
the
ang
prudent
paalala
thing to
ni
do.
Cheese sa mga
That's not
kapwa niya
necessarily what they
senador
do.
Sa bagay,
Oo,
sa bagay.
huwag na muna
Okay.
kayong dumaldal kasi
Sa bagay.
pag-judge kayo
Correct. Okay.
Prof, quick feedback from Ronnie Holmes, ang head ng Pulse Asia. Professor Tonton is incorrect. We do multi-stage random sampling and have respondents from Gen Z to boomers. So
Well, that's good. That's good to know. I'm just getting it from the feedback from other people who are commenting. Maybe Pauls did that, but others hindi ko alam. Kasi but boomers is different also from itong kasi kung ang sa surveyin mo ay 18 years old and above, yung mga malilipat na bago, baka hindi nabilang yung mga young generations na maging new voters. But I don't know how Pulse Asia did their sample, but it's good to know. Thanks, Ronnie, for pointing that out. But I think that's where we need to improve on because surveys were way off this time. So there must be some reflections on what should be done next.
It's also unable to capture yung mga hard votes versus soft votes, and also how people
Masyado
respond.
daw complicated, di ba? Sabi ni Ronnie Holmes.
Oo.
It's going to be a stratified survey, so pinag-uusapan nila ngayon kung anong gagawin nila next time.
Well, we'll see. Certainly, this election left us with a lot to take away and to chew on. We're going to have to leave that there for now. Thank you so much for joining Storycon, political scientist and UP Los Baños Professor Antonio Contreras, also the Vice Chair of PTV.
PTV4.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.